It was April 20th, 1999. Later that morning at Columbine High School, my son Dylan and his friend Eric killed 12 students and a teacher and wounded more than 20 others before taking their own lives. It has taken me years to try to accept my son's legacy. The cruel behavior that defined the end of his life showed me that he was a completely different person from the one I knew. Afterwards, people asked, "How could you not know? What kind of a mother were you?" I still ask myself those same questions. I must ask for understanding and even compassion when I talk about my son's death as a suicide. 2 years before he died, he wrote on a piece of paper in a notebook that he was cutting himself. He said that he was in agony and wanted to get a gun so he could end his life. I didn't know about any of this until months after his death. When I talk about his death as a suicide, I'm not trying to downplay the viciousness he showed at the end of his life. I'm trying to understand how his suicidal thinking led to murder. After a lot of reading and talking with experts, I've come to believe that his involvement in the shootings was rooted not in his desire to kill, but in his desire to die.
I had this duty, this ideal that I held on to, and every time I thought that I was going to kill myself, I thought, well, have I done everything possible to make things right? And if I had any sort of issue, it'd be like, well, I'm not going to kill myself today when I get done with this.
Miss Radak, this video is an open letter to you about your public relations work on behalf of Brandon Bryant and Sean Westmoreland. In our previous video entitled Brandon Bryant the Documentary, Drones and Deceptions, we made the argument that Brandon Bryant is a serial liar and professional victim who internalizes fiction to the point of costuming himself as a messianic fantasy figure and plagiarizing words of fictional heroes to audiences around the world, including in your presence. In this video, we like to explore Brandon's desire to be a guiding light and an example for the world. Is this indication of a messiah complex? We compare Brandon and the organization he and Sean are attempting to build with another man from history who also built an organization. It's important that we understand that correlation is not causation, and we are not suggesting that Brandon is the next Jim Jones or that Project Red Hand is the next People's Temple. But certainly, these are things we should think about with the critical mind. For the sake of the children, please, Miss Radak, please think of the children and remember the 18th of November.
I spent a lot of time here because I didn't want to sleep under the bridge with the rest of the homeless people or on a bench, but it's close enough that I could walk back from the bars. Spent all the money that the reserves paid me on alcohol until I ran out of money. Apparently I had my handgun on the coffee table when my mom got home one day. I don't remember this, but she thought that I was going to kill myself.
I can't isolate myself because it's just going to end up me putting a bullet in my brain. I just felt like a sociopath, actually, if you want to say that. I wanted to kill these people.
We have 22 veterans a day kill themselves.
If I contributed to that many deaths, wouldn't it balance the world out if I was to be a casualty myself?
With my father, I think more than, certainly control was part of it, but more importantly was adulation. He was constantly seeking adulation and praise of whoever he was with. And in Jonestown, unfortunately, his source became finite. So he couldn't play for new people because he always had to have somebody new that liked him.
Sure.
So the madness escalated because he just kept upping the ante. And most of us were acting like we were good with it. So he, because my father's whole world rested in his perception of your perception of him. So it really didn't matter that, one, he knew he was a fraud, or whether or not we really believed it, as long as we were acting like we believed it.
And that's an issue that, you know, in America we have 22 veterans a day killing themselves. I think that is an issue that definitely needs to be addressed, because I could have been one of those people.
Did you want to kill yourself?
I wanted to kill him, and the women that I've dated, are scared to be with me. Really, who's gonna punish me worse than myself? Because I have sat there with a gun in my mouth, ready to pull the trigger, and I couldn't do it.
They deserve it. The people in the military, I no longer have sympathy for people that go into the military and then come out and then kill themselves while they're in. The fucking entire drone programs are piece of shit cowards, and I don't give a fuck if they all put guns in their mouths and take their lives, because they each deserve it. So, I mean, at least I'm not dead. And even then, you know, sometimes I wish it were so. You know what you should have done? Is just let me fucking kill myself. And Robert Schnorr mocked me. Timothy Hayes mocked me. I remember. I remember it all. Mostly because I wanted to try to drive myself insane and kill myself or do something stupid. Or I look at my life and fucking hate it. Like, even when Rick started doing the thing that got us arguing was he posted this thing about being a Gnostic who doesn't believe in free will. And I said, well, I believe in free will. I believe in.
Well, so taking the red pill on free will makes you much more forgiving of a lot of this stuff.
Yes.
Because you see just everyone is an open system. No one authored themselves. Disincentivize them intelligently. I mean, punishment makes sense not because people really, really deserve at bottom whatever their punishments are. It doesn't make sense in a retributive paradigm. It makes sense if it's the best tool to discourage dangerous behavior, and it works, right? So it's like, you know, if you're going to punish people for things they can't control, well, that's stupid, right? Because you as much as you punish them, that you're not going to moderate the behavior. So you have to punish people for things that are actually under voluntary control, and it only makes sense if it's the only tool to do the job. And if the moment you had, I may have brought this up last time we spoke about free will, but this is really the sort of reductio ad absurdum of where most people are on this topic. The moment we really understand human evil at the level of the brain, the moment we understand psychopathy, say, which is, I mean, maybe that's not the totality of evil, but that's, you know, certainly the center of the bullseye. Once we understand psychopathy as a neurological condition that's governed by genes and environment, and we can actually intrude at the level of the brain to mitigate it. So like psychopathy becomes a disease, right? It becomes an injury syndrome, right? That we can fix. And let's say it's a very simple fix. Let's say it's a pill, right? Let's say it's just a neurotransmitter imbalance. In the presence of that breakthrough, we will feel very differently about that species of human evil. We will not judge it in the same way. Because what will happen is you'll give people the pill and they'll say, fuck, I can't believe I was that dangerous asshole. Like thank you for, I'm as horrified by who I was before you cured me as you were. Right, and psychopathy in the presence of a cure for it would look much more like diabetes than it looks like evil in the present case. And people aren't imagining what it would be like to be there, what it would be like to actually fully understand the underlying neurophysiology here and actually have something. I mean, there's no guarantee we'll be able to deal with it in a simple way, but it's certainly possible. And I mean, the classic example is just like the Charles Whitman example, where you have a brain tumor that's causing this aberrant behavior. In that case, everyone sees, okay, this is not evil. This is a brain tumor.
That's the tower shooter guy?
Yeah. Back in 1964, I think. And so, but in the same way that a brain tumor is exculpatory there, I think a full understanding of the underlying neurology would be exculpatory. Again, it doesn't mean you. In the meantime, before we get there, obviously we have to lock up dangerous people if there's no way to help them. But the more we see the causes, the more we view this in terms of just sheer bad luck, right? Like there are people who, when they're adults, are quintessentially evil, and they provoke the greatest feeling of vengeance from us. But if you just walk back their timeline, you recognize that they were 4 years old at one point, right? They were the 4-year-old who was destined to become this